Hello, everybody. I'm Matthew Rorie, head of community here at Null Games. We are a new developer-friendly publisher of indie games, and we've been doing a lot of building here in 2023. We got new vendors, new hires, new relationships, and of course, some traveling. I'm joined here today by Karim Chaoui, our head of marketing, and Dave Newman, our head of partnerships, and we're going to be talking about the recent visit to Japan to attend the Tokyo Game Show. And gentlemen, welcome to the first Null Travelogue. Please introduce yourselves.
Yeah, so my name is Karim, head of marketing at Null. Really excited to talk about our adventures, and yeah, it's been a pretty good ride so far.
Yeah, and hi everyone. Dave Newman, head of partnerships. Excited to talk to you about Tokyo Game Show. Great experience for me.
Awesome. So I went to Tokyo 20 years ago when I worked at GameSpot, and I remember that being a very eye-opening first flight because we flew into Narita. And if you haven't been to Tokyo before, the main airport is technically, within Tokyo, I believe, but it is still like you get off that flight, you're jet lagged as hell, and then there's like a 90-minute bus ride downtown. That's the way I did it like 20 years ago. Was that the similar experience that you had in traveling, flying in?
Yeah, that airport still is further away. Pro tip is to fly into Haneda. It's quite a bit closer, and it's not as difficult to get to downtown Tokyo. But my trick for dealing with jet lag is definitely getting breakfast sushi at Tsukiji or one of the new fish market.
How about you, Kareem? How's your trip going?
It was totally fine for me. The flight wasn't extremely long coming from the West Coast, but I'm pretty good at preventing jet lag. I usually sleep on local time, so Japan time, drink lots of water, and then I just keep my sunglasses on the entire time. I arrived in the late afternoon, dropped off my bags, and went straight for a quick shower and got some sushi and basically went to sleep. But
Kind of
pretty
zero
smooth.
drawer. Yeah, you got to get that
Yeah,
sushi as soon as you land. It's really amazing over there.
100%.
It's been a long time for me, but I remember having awful jet lag, and we were also in downtown Tokyo. And if you don't know the geography, the Makuhari Messe is a pretty decent distance from like the center of Tokyo. It's still within Tokyo, but it's also one of the largest convention centers in the world. It's about 3 football fields back to back to back. And they usually have the first day is press and I believe business and no public at all. But on the weekend, they do open up for public. So it gets really, really crazy. But let's talk about your adventures at TGS and because you had, as somebody attending on behalf of a publisher, what were your kind of goals attending TGS?
Yeah, so basically, our goals was to go in and basically meet with potential partners, see what partners can help us with things like localization, porting, quality control, focus group testing. But we also took the opportunity to basically meet with like local developers. We also met with the developer of Athena Crisis, Christoph. Really awesome to meet with people face to face, and it was actually really cool to like see those people committed to their craft. And being behind the scenes and talking to all of these potential partners that we can work with in the future, it was really helpful for us. And Dave and I, we walked them through some materials that we had prepared on our side, and pretty good collaboration so far. And we will definitely attend next year.
Awesome. I should be remiss if I didn't point people to, if you're listening to this and you are a game developer or want to be work in game publishing, null.com, I believe /pitch is our pitch form. You can pitch us games, you can pitch us, or you can email us at, talk@null.com as well. If you ever have any business relationships, we check those accounts, check those email addresses every day, as far as I know. But how about Dave? Did you get to see or play any interesting games? I know you weren't there for a huge amount of time. You had a lot of meetings, but I was curious if you saw anything that really stood out to you that you can talk about. I know a lot of it's probably behind the scenes.
Yeah, we definitely met with quite a few developers and studios, and we saw some really interesting games, really unique. Some that I want to talk about, but I don't want to jinx because we're still kind of in early talks with them. But definitely a lot of really awesome games going through the indie like hall, and playing a lot of games was a lot of fun too.
So what games in the indie hall like have any release? I know a lot of big game shows will have like release games trying to get that last big marketing push. What kind of ratio between like unreleased versus release did you see?
I would say the majority of them were not released. A lot of them were actually looking for publishers or funding, but they had a pretty good prototype or build to showcase there. I don't. If I had to guess, maybe 70%, but definitely the majority of them were unreleased.
Cool. And Kareem, I know the mobile gaming market is still really huge over in Japan. It feels like it might have. I'm not a business person. It feels like it might have cooled down a little bit in terms of like the hype that I hear about mobile games in America. But were there still a huge amount of mobile games over in TGS for the Tokyo market?
Yeah, absolutely. We saw quite a few mobile games, but I do have to say, like the majority of those games were built with PC in mind first.
Sure.
And then if they see like a market opportunity to basically port out to other platforms, so you see that there's still an appetite for like mobile gaming, but it usually starts with like PC first.
Cool. That's good to know. It's a big change for the Japanese market. I mean, PCs were very far behind for a lot of things for a long period of time. Good to know that's kind of changing. So I know I shipped off you two with a bunch of Null merch to give about. Null merch to give about. I know merch is big in any kind of convention, especially a Tokyo Game Show. I was curious if you got anything good back from Booze or any of your business partners.
To be very honest, like we didn't receive that much swag or merchandising from other partners because we went in with the intention of us setting the meetings and then meeting with them. So we did a really great job at like preparing merchandising from our side. So we had things like stickers, we had hats, so a lot of like custom merchandising that we made ahead of time. So we handed it to them. They were very happy. They were very happy with like the quality of like the items that we gave them. But I kept my bag very light because,
Yeah.
especially if you take a couple of things with you, it's going to stack up, and you're going to be dragging that stuff along with you across Tokyo. So
Yeah,
I'm happy I didn't take too much.
Yeah.
And I will say one thing: the most popular form of swag there, because of the temperature, were fans. So everyone had a fan. That was the one thing that I actually grabbed. Yeah, it was pretty hot.
Tokyo in September, October is boiling for sure. And I see what you're saying. Like I've done a million conventions as press, and you'd usually, especially as press, people are throwing stuff at you. Like they really want you to take their merch so you remember it and talk about it later. But traveling to like E3 or back when that was like open to, we had so much merch going through. Our PAX is probably the worst, where people have so much swag, and then you have to fly home and you can't fit it, so you got to throw something out. It's always a bummer. So I respect the integrity of keeping it light. But speaking of the quality of the merch at Null, you can go to null.com/merch today, and we have a few introductory items. More further down the line, but that is shipping out today. If you'd like to own a very comfortable hoodie or a very comfortable hat or a couple different water bottle options there. So outside of TGS, I know you both took a little time traveling through Tokyo and Japan after the show was over. And I guess, Dave, I was just curious. You've been there before, and I was curious if anything had changed since last time you went, or if you have any highlights of the trip that you took this time.
I try to try to not fall into the routine of doing things I've already done. I always try to go somewhere new. But I still do have a few of the places or things I always do for nostalgia reasons, like my favorite ramen shop in Akihabara. I go there pretty much every time. But somewhere that I had not been before in Akihabara was recommended by Christoph from Athena Crisis, and it was Super Potato, which is like a vintage retro game store, and it was awesome. Definitely would recommend going there. And there's an arcade also in Akihabara, but I'm blanking on the name. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the last time I went to we spent a lot of time in Akihabara. It's a very commercial district, a lot of game shops. I know a lot of those game shops have kind of come on hard times since COVID, but hopefully they'll bounce back. And Kareem, I know you've been to Tokyo as well. I think we've all been before, but I was curious if you had anything notable about this trip that you stuck out to you that you want to mention.
I think the most notable thing is what Dave just said. He went to Super Potato, and I have a good experience with the guys there. I bought 4 sealed Game Boys. I took them with me. I'm a little bit of a collector when it comes to like old vintage tech, so I'm definitely excited having those. I'm gonna get them graded sometime in the near future, but I'm happy with that purchase. Yeah,
I didn't realize you were the greater person for your game history. I'm pretty cavalier about keeping stuff. I usually keep like 2 generations old, but I'm always impressed when I meet a collector. We'll have to see that in person someday. So obviously another big thing about Tokyo traveling there is the food. And I was curious if you could both, like Dave, what your best meal that you had while in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, I already mentioned the ramen place that I go to every time, but they really have everything. I mean, they have great pizza, great Italian food, but the best meal I had was when I was visiting with some family friends down in Nagoya. We did like yakiniku in the backyard. It was just great to catch up with them, have like a home meal because, when you're traveling, you eat out a lot.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to have like a home meal and just kind of relax and yeah, good company. That was for me.
How about you, Kareem?
Yeah, I made my way to Kyoto. Really love visiting there, and especially because it's not that far from Nara. But there was like this very small spot that I found near a temple, and they sold both Japanese udon, which is one of my favorite Japanese dishes, and they also sold sushi. Like I usually wasn't into sushi a couple of years ago until I visited Japan for the first time, and then I'm sold. So that place like specializes in both like udon curry and then also Japanese sushi. It was absolutely amazing. So really great time.
Excellent. I'm gonna have to take you out to some sushi in the Bay Area because there are some really, really nice places that you might not have been to. There's one where I used to live that has like a 92-year-old guy who came from Japan and does all omakase.
Mm.
It's fantastic. The other thing I remember most about Tokyo was not just street food, but like every 7-Eleven has those little rice triangles, and I've been trying to find
Yes.
something where I can get those fresh in America. There's one place that sells them up in Berkeley, but they're warm, and I always kind of prefer them cold. But next time I go back, I'm gonna have to track some down. Maybe bring some home, but they probably won't last because they're full of mayonnaise. And I did notice in your photo reel that you took a picture of an Outback Steakhouse, and I was curious if that's the one near TGS because I have a very specific memory of going to an Outback Steakhouse on the way out of TGS. Was that the same one, or is that a different one?
This was a different one. I
Okay.
do. I just kind of I love like Japanese interpretations of like American fast food chains. So like
Mhm.
even McDonald's, the call it McDo, but they have like the Mc shrimp instead of the McRib. And this specific Outback was actually near Shibuya, but
Okay.
there's a Wahoo's fish taco somewhere
Oh,
also.
wow. We don't even have that in the Bay
TGIF.
Area.
I
What
know, and they obviously do everything like way better than we do. So
What I remember about Outback is that the Outback near the Makarari Messi is basically they're all in the same kit. It's like one you got that little bas relief map of Australia and everything. And my big
yeah,
memory is like going in there after a long day and trying to leave a tip, and this waitress ran out and found me and like you dropped your money because they don't accept tips there. But
we do
that's a
not do that.
whole other
Yeah,
different conversation, obviously.
yeah.
Um, so obviously, no trip to Japan would be complete without anime. And I am told that you saw a giant Gundam, according to what I'm seeing in these photos that you sent me. I've heard of this before. It's been in the news for a while, but I was curious if you can sum up the experience of seeing a huge Gundam. Kareem.
Yeah, absolutely. So I never had the opportunity to go and visit that place while I was in Tokyo before. Um, but it's something that I've been looking forward to for a long time, especially because my brothers used to watch anime a lot and I just like delved myself into it together with them. So Gundam series is like one of the oldest anime series out there and I grew up with it. So I took my brother out there. We paid a little bit extra in order to get into the elevator to go all the way up to like shoulder length of the Gundam, and then you could see like a little performance of like the Gundam animating and making like the classic sound effects from back in the anime. So it was really cool and it really brought me back to those good old times.
Awesome. And last but not least, we talk about pets a lot here at Null. We have a whole pet channel on our internal Discord. And when I was scrolling through the photos that you brought back, I obviously cat cafes are everywhere, but I was super curious about the specific like astronaut cat that you found because it looks like there's I don't know. Explain the cat cafe to me. I've only been to one once in New York, but this one looked like a lot of fun, and it looked like this one cat was having like the weirdest time, like observing humanity from was like an alien or something like that.
Yeah, this cat cafe is in downtown Tokyo. It's near the crossing, the famous crossing,
Yeah.
and I just stumbled on it, and I was like, okay, for the heck of it, I will just go inside. And I saw like on the third floor, it was like this massive floor with like dozens of cats. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna stay a little bit here, spend some time here, had some tea, bought some snacks for the cats, and then I saw one of the cats getting into this little shuttle because there's a lot of props out there where the cats can go into and have fun. And I saw one of the cats going into like this little shuttle. And then I went to the other side of it and I was able to take like the perfect picture of him basically about to
Looks
take off.
Looks
Yeah.
adorable. I was really jealous of that. I've only, like I said, only been to one cat cafe in my life and had a great time. I was on my way back from a trip to New York last year. But if I'm ever in Tokyo, I'll have to look that one up. And I know the street crossing that you're talking about, it's the busiest pedestrian street crossing in the world, as far as I know. It's super massive. I believe you have a video of it. We'll try to pop up here. Um, but hey, that sounds like a really robust couple weeks in Japan. Was there anything else you wanted to note about your trip off the top of your head before we finish this up?
No, I think like it's a big recommendation that I always throw to developers and publishers out there. Like you should definitely need to visit Tokyo if you want to get like that old school feeling about like indie games. So go out there, participate in the Tokyo Game Show, meet other developers, meet publishers, and just put out your game. And yeah, just like have a good time. Like the reception will always be good because the fans are definitely in Tokyo. There's a massive crowd of people that just can't wait to play your game. So you won't have anything to lose being there.
Awesome. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, I've only been to like a handful of gaming conferences, and I would say that this one is hands down the biggest one that I've ever been to. I would highly recommend going. Also, go to a store and buy an electric fan before you go there because it is going to be warm and it is going to be crowded, and but it's going to be a lot of fun. And definitely go to the indie exhibit hall. It is like it's to the side. It's not next to the main two. You kind of have to cross a bridge. But I wish I would have spent more time there. I'll probably do that next time.
Yeah, Tokyo Game Show is huge. We'll definitely be back, but also like just the experience of flying into Tokyo and seeing how huge that city is really something. It's spectacularly large. I forget how many tens of millions of people are there. The only place I've ever been to that can compare is like Mexico City in terms of like the sprawl and the size. It's super impressive. It's just a massive sprawl of urbanity that it's hard to compare to anything else that you've seen in your life if you haven't been. So hopefully if you're watching this and you are in the industry or not in the industry, we might see you at a Tokyo Game Show in the future at some point. Well, Dave and Karim, thank you so much for joining me for this first look behind the scenes at Null's operations in Tokyo. We'll be doing this more for other shows that we go to in the future, little post roundup. You can find out more information about us, our games, our social media channels, and everything else at our website, null.com. Please give it a roll. Please subscribe to the newsletter, which we're getting highly regarded reviews about our official Null newsletter once a month. We have plenty of news there as well. So thank you again for joining me, Karim and Dave. And this is Matthew Rorie signing off on this wonderful first Null video.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew.